A chaotic scene inside a courtroom after a judge announced a 6-month jail sentence for former juvenile court judge Tracie Hunter.
It was back in 2014 that a jury determined Hunter illegally helped her brother, who was a juvenile court jailer, in a disciplinary hearing and found her guilty of unlawful interest in a public contract. Well, now 5 years later, she's exhausted all of her appeals.
At 9 on your sides, Paula Soro joins us right now with a reaction from both sides. Paula?
Yeah, well, guys, you know, the immediate reaction inside that packed courtroom was really outrage. I mean, one woman even tried rushing to Hunter's side as the sentence was being executed. And we've learned since that she has been taken into custody. But really, the reaction began, in the courtroom, but then spread into the halls, eventually making its way outside of the courthouse here behind me. Inside the courtroom, former juvenile court judge Tracie Hunter supporters, including State Senator Cecil Thomas, lined the benches, praying, crying, as Judge Dinklager executed the sentence.
You are to do 6 months in the Hamilton County Justice Center, credit 1 day. Mr. or Ms. Deputy can take her away.
Hunter appeared to go limp, getting dragged out of the courtroom by a deputy. And through the halls to the outside of the courthouse, her supporters said justice was failed.
We cannot keep playing with these people. We cannot keep allowing this to happen to our people.
We're tired. It's not like we're asking for something that's not right. We're only asking for the bare minimums. Be fair, that's all, just fair.
But former Judge Norbert Nadel, who sentenced Hunter back in 2014, says the 6-month sentence is nothing but fair.
It was a lot less than I could have imposed. An elected public official is held to a higher standard than anybody else.
Hunter's attorney, David Singleton, as well as Mayor John Cranley, have argued that she should be set free because she's already lost so much.
She lost her job as a judge, her law license, her ability to earn an income.
But prosecutor Joe Dieters, who wrote a letter read by Judge Dinklager, said she has some, quote, type of mental condition and that she never showed remorse, something Nadel says he brought up 5 years ago.
There's never been any remorse. It was just complete fighting of the system. Fight the system, fight the system. Maybe somebody will buy it, and nobody bought it.
Hunter has exhausted all her appeals. We're told Governor Mike DeWine has spoken with Dieters on commuting Hunter's sentence, but DeWine says his office has not received requests for commutation from Hunter.
I was a little dismayed by it. Went through every court, and every court agreed with what I did 5 years ago.
Mercy and justice for her not to be punished as harshly as some of the others who should have been punished.
Now, Hunter's attorney does say that she was taken to the Justice Center this morning and that because she is a, quote, high-profile case, they will make sure that she is protected in there. He also tells us that he will continue fighting this to see if she is able to come out earlier. He says that they will file motion to see what the court has to say about that. Guys?
You know, Paula, as you mentioned there earlier, you were in the courtroom when Tracie Hunter was sentenced, and you described it as a chaotic scene. Can you tell us what the judge was doing, what the judge's reaction was during all of this?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting because he was, of course, sitting down during all of was said and done. He actually stood up, approached the benches where all her supporters were, and all the supporters were standing up. There was actually a clip of it in my story, and while the supporters were standing up, you know, he was there just quietly kind of watching, and there were several deputies, you know, between her supporters and between the judge, trying to keep everything kind of, you know, tame and under control. But it was interesting just to see him watching there silently and just hearing what all the supporters had to say as well.
All right, Paula, thanks so much for your update. We'll see you again later today. So as Paula mentioned, prior to sentencing, Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieters sent the judge a letter asking Hunter be evaluated before the judge imposed her sentence. He's also asked Governor Mike DeWine to look into commuting her sentence. I spoke with the prosecutor about an hour and a half ago, I should say, now, asking him why he would intercede in this way.
I understand why Pat Dinklager did what he did, but by the same token, in the global perspective of everything, the types of offenders we want in our Justice Center, I don't think Tracie Hunter's one of them.
Now, Dieters told me he believes Hunter has lost enough. So keep it right here on 9 on your side for more coverage of Tracie Hunter's sentencing. Coming up at 6, we'll look at what comes next in the case. As always, read more about this story on WCPO.com and on our WCPO News app.